My cheating wife sold our dream home for $1 and ended up cheating herself out of everything. I stood in the doorway watching her pack. Her hands moved quickly, shoving dresses, shoes, and designer handbags into an open suitcase, as if she were in a rush to leave before I had the chance to stop her. But I wasn't here to stop her. I wasn't here to beg, to plead, or even to argue. No, I was here for something much better, something she wouldn't see coming. I can't believe you sold our dream house to your 23-year-old boyfriend for $1, I said, keeping my voice steady. Vanessa barely glanced at me. A smirk flickered across her face before she zipped the suitcase shut. "You'll never get it back," she said smoothly, straightening up. "It's legally his now." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. Her smugness was almost laughable. The way she said it, as if she had won, as if she had outsmarted me, made it all the more satisfying. "Legally his," I repeated, pretending to let the words sink in. "Right, because you put it in his name, and now he owns it," she exhaled dramatically. "Nathan, let's not drag this out. You're a lawyer, you know how this works. It's done. The deed is signed, the transfer is official, and there's nothing you can do about it." She tilted her head. "Honestly, you should be happy for me. I get to move on, and you get to stop living in the past." Ah, there it was. The justification. The little speech cheaters love to give themselves so they can sleep at night. The idea that they're the victim, that they're the ones who were somehow trapped in an unhappy situation and had no choice but to burn it all to the ground. "I see," I said. "So that's how you see it? You're moving on." Vanessa flipped her hair over her shoulder, her confidence growing as she grabbed another bag from the closet. "Of course. I was suffocating, Nathan. You were so caught up in your career, your cases, your clients. I needed more. Carter gives me that." Ah, Carter, the boy toy she threw our marriage away for. The same Carter who had probably never filed a tax return in his life, let alone understood how property law worked. But sure, he was a real man in her eyes. "Well, I'm happy for you," I said, keeping my voice light. That made her hesitate. Her fingers curled around the handle of her suitcase, and she turned to look at me. "You are?" I nodded. "Of course. If this is what you really want, if Carter makes you happy, then who am I to stop you?" Her lips parted slightly, eyes narrowing as if she were trying to figure out what game I was playing. "That's surprisingly mature of you." "Yeah, well," I shrugged. "We were together for a long time. I'd rather end things with some dignity." She smiled, as if she had won something, as if she'd been expecting a bitter fight and was pleased that I was just rolling over. Of course, she had no idea. I let a slow smile creep onto my face. "By the way," I added, "you might want to read the fine print before you get too comfortable." Vanessa frowned. "What fine print?" I shrugged again, already stepping toward the door. "Nothing, just something I noticed when I was going through the paperwork. But if you're sure it's legally his now, then I'm sure it'll be fine." I could feel her eyes burning into my back as I walked away. I could practically hear the gears in her head turning. Vanessa wasn't dumb. She had a sharp mind, one of the things that had drawn me to her in the first place. But she was careless, reckless. She made decisions based on impulse, not long-term consequences. And that's exactly why she had no idea she had just signed her own financial death sentence. The moment I stepped outside, my phone buzzed. I already knew who it was before I even looked. "Vanessa, what the hell did you do?" I didn't respond. Let her sit with it for a while. Let her wonder. Let her sweat. Because in the next few days, she would learn a painful lesson, one she would never forget. 2 weeks earlier, I had been sitting at my desk at the law firm, finishing up a contract review, when Claire, a colleague, knocked on my office door. The way she hesitated in the doorway set off alarm bells. Claire wasn't the type to beat around the bush. If she was hesitating, it meant whatever she had to say was bad. "Nathan," she said, holding a thick manila folder against her chest. "There's something I think you need to see." I gestured for her to come in, setting my pen down. "That doesn't sound good." She walked over and placed the folder on my desk, pushing it toward me without a word. I flipped it open, frowning as I scanned the first page. It was a property transfer document, one with my house's address on it. My stomach twisted as I read further. Seller, Vanessa Reynolds. Buyer, Carter Jameson. Sale price, $1. I stared at it, feeling like the ground had just disappeared beneath me. "This has to be a mistake," I muttered. Claire shook her head. I triple-checked. "It's already been recorded with the county, 3 days ago. 3 days ago." I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. 3 days ago, Vanessa had been in our house, laughing with me at the dinner table, acting like nothing was wrong. 3 days ago, I had still been living under the illusion that, despite her late nights, her sudden secrecy, and the way she had been withdrawing from me, she was still my wife. And all that time, she had already signed away our home. I clenched my jaw, forcing my breathing to stay even. Anger wouldn't help me. Panic wouldn't help me. I had been blind, but I wasn't going to be stupid. I closed the folder and looked up at Claire. Does she know you found this? She hesitated before shaking her head. No, but it won't take her long to figure out someone tipped you off. Good. I had time, not much, but enough. I had always been careful about separating work from my personal life, which meant I had never handled the legal aspects of our house myself. Vanessa had insisted that I was too busy, that she'd take care of the details while I focused on my career. And I, like a complete idiot, had trusted her. Now, that trust had turned into a loaded gun in her hands, one she had fired without a second thought. But she had no idea that, in her rush to get rid of me, she had left a crucial detail unchecked. I turned back to Claire, my voice calm. I need every document related to the house's construction. Everything we signed, every contract, every restriction. Can you pull them for me? Claire's eyebrows shot up. You think there's something she missed? I know there is. The search began. By the time I got home that night, my mind was already racing through every possible angle. There had to be something, some loophole, some clause she hadn't read. Because that was the thing about Vanessa. She was smart, but she was also lazy when it came to the details. She liked to cut corners, to trust that everything would work out in her favor without reading the fine print. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, grabbed the folder Claire had compiled for me, and settled in at my desk. The documents were thick, but I had spent years breaking down complex contracts for a living. I knew exactly what to look for. An hour in, I found it. A buried clause in the deed restrictions, one that applied specifically to custom-built properties in high-value neighborhoods like ours. I read the paragraph 3 times, the words sinking in deeper each time. If a property is transferred for less than market value within 5 years of construction, the county tax assessor's office will initiate an automatic reassessment of the property's value. The seller will be required to pay the difference in full upon reassessment. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the page. Bingo. Vanessa had sold a $2,800,000 home for $1. The reassessment would hit immediately, and the tax bill. $980,000. And the best part? The clause didn't just apply to sales. It also applied to transfers, which meant that even though Vanessa had signed the house over to Carter, the tax burden would still fall on her. She had no way out. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. She thought she had won. She thought I was going to walk away with nothing. But instead, she had just handed me the perfect weapon. The next step, I barely slept that night. My mind was too sharp, too wired, too focused. The pieces were all lining up, falling into place like dominoes. By morning, I was at my office before anyone else, preparing my next move. I needed to move fast, but smart. Step 1. Don't let Vanessa know I found the clause. If she figured it out before the tax assessment hit, she'd try to weasel her way out. Maybe she'd go crying to the county, claim ignorance, beg for an exemption. I couldn't risk that. Step 2. Freeze any financial transfers. If she was willing to steal our home out from under me, who knew what else she was hiding? I needed to find out where the rest of our assets were before she tried to drain everything. Step 3. Let her feel safe. Let her believe she had won. Let her bask in the illusion that I was powerless, that she had outsmarted me, that she had secured a life with her little boy toy without consequences. And then, let the reality hit her like a freight train. I sat back in my chair, sipping my coffee as the sun rose outside my office window. The first move had been hers, the betrayal, the lies, the deception. But the last move was mine. I've always believed that people dig their own graves. Some use lies, others use greed. Vanessa, she used carelessness. For weeks, she had been planning this, moving behind my back, making her little arrangements with Carter, forging a future she thought was untouchable. She truly believed she had outplayed me, that she had found a way to erase me from the picture while keeping everything we'd built together. But she missed one thing, and that one thing was about to cost her everything. As I flipped through the deed restrictions again, I couldn't help but smile. This clause, this beautiful, perfect ironclad clause, wasn't something I had slipped into the contract. No, it had always been there, buried in the standard custom-build property agreements for high-value neighborhoods. The clause was designed to prevent fraudulent transfers, to stop people from dodging property taxes by selling million-dollar homes for next to nothing. The county wasn't stupid. They knew people tried to game the system, so they implemented a mandatory reassessment rule for any property sold below market value within the first 5 years of construction, meaning the county would automatically reassess the house at full market price. The seller, not the buyer, would be on the hook for the tax liability. There was no way to reverse it, no loopholes, no appeals. And Vanessa had just handed our $2,800,000 home over to Carter for a single dollar. The tax bill, $980,000, due immediately. And the best part? The deed restrictions transferred with the property, which meant Carter was stuck too. He couldn't sell it, transfer it, or do anything to avoid the tax bomb that was about to detonate in Vanessa's lap. She had played herself. Now I had to be smart. If I made my move too soon, she'd find a way to wiggle out of it. If I waited too long, she might figure it out on her own and try to reverse the damage. I needed to time it perfectly, like a bomb going off exactly when she thought she was in the clear. So I did nothing. I went to work like usual, answered emails, took calls, pretended like I hadn't just uncovered the perfect way to destroy her. And the best part? She had no idea. She still walked around like she had won, like she had wiped me off the board and could start fresh with Carter in our home. The home I built, the home I paid for, the home I had trusted her with. So, I let her believe it. Because in a matter of days, she was going to wake up to a financial nightmare that no amount of charm, manipulation, or begging would fix. The first sign that Vanessa realized something was wrong was her texts. I was sitting in my office, sipping my coffee, when my phone buzzed. "Vanessa, what the hell did you do?" I smirked but didn't respond. A few minutes later, another one. "Vanessa, Nathan, call me now." Still nothing from me. Then a third. "Vanessa, I swear to God, if you don't answer." I laughed. Oh, now she wanted to talk. I had a feeling I knew exactly what had happened. The county assessor's office must have reached out to inform her about the pending tax reassessment. The moment she heard that number, $980,000, her entire world must have started crumbling. Good. She had spent weeks planning how to screw me over, but she had never considered the consequences of her own actions. Now she was drowning, and I had no intention of throwing her a lifeline. By the time I got home that evening, Vanessa was waiting for me. She was standing outside the apartment building, arms crossed, tapping her foot like a spoiled child who had just been told no for the first time in her life. The moment she saw me, she stormed up. "What did you do?" I raised an eyebrow. "You'll have to be more specific." "You know exactly what I'm talking about." Her voice was shaking, not with anger but with fear. "The county says I owe nearly $1 million in taxes." I blinked, feigning innocence. "Wow, that's rough." Her eyes narrowed. "You planned this." I tilted my head. "Planned what?" "You're the one who transferred our house for $1, Vanessa. That was all you. I had nothing to do with it." "But the clause..." She stopped herself, realization hitting her. She finally got it. "You didn't read it, did you?" I asked, stepping closer. "You never read the deed restrictions. You never checked to see if there were any conditions before you handed over a multi-million-dollar home for a single dollar." Her mouth opened, then closed. I could see it in her eyes, the moment of absolute crushing regret. "You can fix it," she said quickly, desperation creeping into her voice. "You're a lawyer, Nathan. You know how to undo this." I sighed, shaking my head. "I can't. Even if I wanted to, which I don't, there's nothing I can do. The clause is legally binding. The tax bill is already being processed." Vanessa actually staggered backward, like the weight of reality had physically hit her. "Then I'll contest it," she whispered. "I'll say I didn't know." I chuckled. "Good luck with that. You're an adult, Vanessa. You signed the deed. And last I checked, ignorance isn't a valid legal defense. But by all means, tell a judge that you transferred a $2,800,000 property for $1 without reading the documents first. I'm sure that'll go over well." Her face turned pale. She knew she was trapped. "What am I supposed to do?" she muttered. "I don't have that kind of money." "Not my problem," I said, brushing past her. "Oh, and I wouldn't count on Carter helping either. He owns the house now, which means if you don't pay that tax bill, he loses the property. Something tells me your little boy toy doesn't have $1 million lying around." I didn't even have to turn around to know her expression had crumbled. I walked inside, closing the door behind me. She thought she had won. She thought she had taken everything from me. But all she had really done was destroy herself. Vanessa always loved control. She thrived on the illusion that she was the smartest person in the room, that she could manipulate any situation in her favor. She had spent weeks, maybe months, crafting her little scheme, moving money, transferring property, making sure she had her fresh start lined up before she dropped the hammer on me. She thought she had everything figured out, and now she was watching her empire collapse in real time. After our brief conversation outside my apartment, I didn't hear from Vanessa for almost a day. No texts, no calls, nothing. Which told me one thing: she was scrambling. She was Googling tax laws, calling every contact she had, probably even sitting across from Carter, trying to figure out how they were going to pay that tax bill. And she was coming up empty. Because there was no way out. I had spent years perfecting contracts, closing real estate loopholes and navigating property law, and she thought she could blindside me with a fraudulent sale? Please, the best part? She had played herself so perfectly that I didn't have to do anything. I could just sit back and let her panic. On the second day, my phone buzzed. Not Vanessa this time, it was her mother. I sighed and answered. "Hi, Margaret. Nathan," she started, and I could already hear the forced politeness in her voice. "I just had the most troubling conversation with Vanessa. She says you're refusing to help her with the house situation." I almost laughed. The house situation, as if it were a mild inconvenience, not a financial disaster. "Margaret," I said, keeping my voice level, "Vanessa didn't ask for my help. She sold our house for $1. She made this mess herself." There was a pause, then a carefully worded response. "You're a lawyer, Nathan. You know mistakes happen. Maybe you could assist her in fixing this?" Ah, there it was, the attempt to guilt me into solving Vanessa's problem. "No, I can't," I said, enjoying the honesty. "And even if I could, I wouldn't." Vanessa knew exactly what she was doing. Margaret inhaled sharply. "But, sorry, Margaret," I interrupted. "I have a meeting. Got to go." And I hung up. That night, my phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. I had a pretty good guess who it was before I even picked up. "Hello? Nathan?" A man's nervous voice greeted me. "Carter, listen, we need to talk." I smirked. I knew this was coming. "About what?" "The house," he exhaled sharply. "Vanessa didn't tell me about the tax thing. This is bad, man, like really bad." "Oh," I said, enjoying the way he stumbled over his words. "Yeah. And look, I don't want problems, okay? He hesitated. "I just need to know if there's a way out of this. Maybe I can sign it back to you?" I almost felt bad for him. Almost. "You'd have to ask Vanessa," I said. "She's the one who made the deal. Legally, it's your house now." "Yeah, but..." He swallowed hard. "If I don't pay the taxes, they'll seize the property," Vanessa said. "You might help." I let that hang in the air. Vanessa told him I might help, which meant she was still clinging to the hope that I would cave, that at the last second I'd step in and clean up her mess. That wasn't going to happen. "You're in a tough spot, Carter," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "But there's nothing I can do, but good luck," I added, and then I hung up. The next day she came to my office. I knew she would. Vanessa hated losing, hated feeling like she was backed into a corner, and now she was desperate. I was reviewing a case when my assistant buzzed in. "Your ex-wife is here to see you." I grinned. "Send her in." Vanessa walked in like she still owned the room, still held the power. But I saw the tension in her shoulders, the way she was clutching her designer handbag like a lifeline. She closed the door behind her. "We need to talk." I leaned back, folding my hands on the desk. "Do we?" She sighed, moving closer. "Look, I know you're mad." "Mad?" I cut in. "No, I'm actually enjoying this." Her jaw clenched. "You don't have to do this." "Do what? Act like some cold-hearted bastard just because we didn't work out?" I laughed. "Vanessa, this isn't about our marriage failing. This is about you trying to screw me over and getting burned in the process." She exhaled sharply. "Fine, I made a mistake." "I should have. Read the fine print," I finished for her. "Yeah, you should have." She swallowed, frustration flickering in her eyes. She wasn't used to this, being the one begging. "Nathan, please," she finally said. "I need your help." I tilted my head. "You needed my help when you were signing the house over to Carter, not now." She exhaled sharply. "There has to be something." "There is," I interrupted. "You pay the tax bill, or Carter does. Either way, the county is getting their money." She shook her head. "I don't have that kind of money," I smirked. "That sounds like a you problem." Her lips parted like she was about to argue, but for once in her life she had nothing left to say, because she knew I was right. And that moment right there, that was better than any revenge I could have ever planned. She left without another word. I watched her walk out of my office, shoulders hunched, her entire world crashing around her. And me? I just sat there, sipping my coffee, knowing this was only the beginning. The real fallout was still coming, and I couldn't wait. Vanessa had always lived in a fantasy world, a world where consequences were for other people, where she could make reckless decisions, betray the people closest to her, and still land on her feet every single time. But reality had finally caught up with her, and now she was drowning in it. It didn't take long. By the next morning, Vanessa had finally run out of options. At 9:14 a.m., my phone buzzed with her name. I didn't pick up. At 9:15, another call, then another. At 9:20, I checked my voicemail. Her voice came through, shaky, frantic, almost unrecognizable. "Nathan, please pick up. I need to talk to you." "It's serious." She exhaled sharply. "They called me, the county. I owe." I don't even know how this happened. She did, of course. But it was easier to pretend she didn't. Please call me back. 2, I don't know what to do. She was cracking, and I wasn't going to stop it. By noon, Vanessa had given up on the phone calls and switched to texts. Nathan, answer me. I need to talk to you. This is serious. Nathan, stop being childish. I can't pay this. I don't have that kind of money. Please. There it was, the please, the realization that I wasn't coming to save her, that she had built this entire house of cards on lies and deceit, and now it was collapsing in slow motion around her. At 2:30 p.m., I got a different call. This one was from the county tax assessor's office. Mr. Reynolds, this is Stephanie Wells from the property tax division. I wanted to confirm that the reassessment for your former residence has been completed. I leaned back in my chair. That's great to hear, Stephanie. What's the final number? $980,000 in back taxes, she said, due immediately. We've already sent the formal notice to Mrs. Reynolds. I smiled. Perfect. Vanessa had probably just opened that letter, her heart stopping in her chest as she saw the amount. No loopholes, no extensions, no way out. And now she was desperate. By evening, I got another call. This one wasn't from Vanessa, it was from Carter. I had been waiting for this. The moment when reality would finally hit both of them like a sledgehammer. I picked up, keeping my tone casual. Hello? Nathan, man. Carter's voice was rushed, anxious, and slightly higher pitched than usual. Listen, I need to talk to you. This is serious. Oh, I said, pretending to be surprised. What's going on? The house, he blurted out. The taxes. I just found out about them. I smirked. You just found out? That's odd. Vanessa didn't mention it? A pause. A long, awkward pause. I mean, she didn't know either. Liar. I leaned back in my chair. Well, Carter, I'm not sure what you want me to do about it. You own the house now. Legally, it's your responsibility. Dude, I can't afford this. His voice cracked. I don't have that kind of money. I let the silence drag, let him sit in it. Then I finally spoke. Sounds like a you problem, Carter. You have to help me, man. I don't know what to do. Actually, I said, I don't have to do anything. But if I were you, I'd sell the house before the county takes it from you. Carter didn't answer right away. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, the slow creeping realization that he was about to lose everything. But Vanessa said. I laughed. Vanessa said what? That she'd fix it? That she'd find a way out? I heard him swallow. Let me guess, I said. She told you she had it all under control, that she could handle it. He didn't respond. I sighed. Carter, you were just a pawn. She used you to try and hurt me, and now she's realizing that she screwed herself over too. He exhaled sharply. I should have never. Yeah, I said, you shouldn't have. I hung up. The next morning, Vanessa showed up at my office. She didn't walk in confidently this time. She didn't strut. She stormed in, red-faced, breathing hard, eyes burning with desperation. She slammed the door behind her. You need to fix this. I took a sip of my coffee. Good morning to you too, Vanessa. She didn't sit, she didn't move, she just stood there, shaking. The county is saying I owe almost $1 million, Nathan. I set my cup down. I heard, she gasped. You knew. I raised an eyebrow. Of course I knew. I read the deed restrictions, unlike you. Her hands curled into fists. You did this on purpose. I laughed. You did this, Vanessa. You sold a $2,800,000 house for $1 without checking the paperwork. That's not on me. Her nostrils flared. I don't have that kind of money. That sounds like a you problem, I said, echoing my words from before. She inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring. Nathan, please, she whispered. I can't lose everything. I leaned back in my chair. Vanessa, I want you to think back to the moment you signed that transfer. The moment you sold our house to your boy toy for $1. What were you thinking? She swallowed hard but said nothing. Were you thinking about me? I asked. Were you thinking about what would happen to me, or were you just focused on screwing me over? She looked down. That was all the answer I needed. You made your choice, I said. Now you get to live with it. Her lower lip quivered, but she held it together. Finally, she took a shaky step back. I hate you, I smiled. No, Vanessa, you hate yourself, she stormed out. I watched her go, feeling nothing but satisfaction. She thought she had won. She thought she had destroyed me. But now she was the one losing everything. And I hadn't even started yet. Vanessa had always been good at pretending she was untouchable, pretending she was smarter than everyone else, pretending she could never lose. But today she was falling apart. I could see it in the way she moved, the way her carefully constructed world was collapsing beneath her feet. And the best part? She had built the entire thing herself. After Vanessa's outburst in my office, I thought she might finally disappear for a while, crawl under a rock, lick her wounds, try to come up with some pathetic plan to fix the unfixable. But no, because Vanessa didn't know how to give up. And by the next morning she was back, not at my office this time, at my apartment. I had just finished my coffee when I heard pounding on my door. Reluctantly, I walked over and pulled it open, finding her standing there in yesterday's clothes, her hair disheveled, her mascara smudged beneath her eyes. She looked rough. "Vanessa," I said, leaning against the doorframe, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" She stormed inside, shoving past me like she still had some claim over my space. I sighed, closing the door. "I see we're skipping pleasantries." She turned, her expression a mix of fury and panic. "Carter's leaving," I blinked. "Oh?" She nodded, swallowing hard. "He's selling the house." I had to fight a grin. "Wow, that was fast." Vanessa exhaled sharply. "He said he won't be tied to my mistakes, that he's not paying for my problems." I let out a low whistle. Cold, but smart. Her hands curled into fists. "This isn't funny, Nathan." To me, it was. Because she had ruined our marriage for this guy, had thrown away everything we'd built for some young idiot she thought would worship her. And now he was jumping ship the second things got difficult. How poetic. I took a sip of my coffee, watching Vanessa pace like a caged animal. "So," I said, "what's your plan?" She spun around. "My plan?" "Yeah," I shrugged. "You owe $1 million in taxes. You need a place to live. Carter's leaving. What's your move?" Her mouth opened and closed like she was struggling to form a response, and for the first time, I realized she didn't have one. She had spent so much time playing offense, scheming and manipulating, that she had never bothered to think about what would happen if she lost. She had no backup plan, no safety net, and the panic was finally setting in. She inhaled deeply, straightening her spine as if forcing herself back into control. "I need you to help me, Nathan." I almost choked on my coffee. "I'm sorry, what?" She swallowed, her throat visibly tight. We were married for a long time. You don't want to see me homeless, do you?" I laughed, actually laughed. "Vanessa, I didn't throw you out on the street. You did that to yourself." Her jaw clenched. "You're seriously just going to stand there and do nothing?" "Yep," I said, popping the pea. She let out a shaky breath, rubbing her temples like this was all some inconvenient headache she could just will away. "Nathan, please," she finally whispered. I can't do this alone." I tilted my head, pretending to consider it. Then I smirked. "That's funny, because you sure seemed fine doing everything alone when you were signing that house over to Carter." Her eyes flashed. "That's not fair." "Oh?" I raised a brow. "You didn't feel guilty screwing me over, but now that you're the one suffering, suddenly it's not fair?" She looked down, her lip trembling slightly. "I made a mistake." I clapped my hands together. "Finally, she admits it. I wish I had this on record. Nathan." Her voice was soft, desperate. "I don't have anywhere to go." "And that," I said, moving toward the door, "is not my problem." She flinched. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I said, pulling the door open, "I have a meeting, and you have a house to sell." She didn't move for a second. Then, finally, she stepped forward, brushing past me into the hallway. As I closed the door behind her, I heard a soft sniffle. Vanessa never cried, at least not where people could see. But today, she was cracking, and I loved every second of it. By that evening, I got a text from Claire, my colleague who first found the house transfer. "Claire, saw something interesting today. Your ex's boy toy was at the title office. Looks like he's finalizing the sale." I smirked. Carter didn't waste any time. And why would he? He was young, selfish, and not nearly as dumb as Vanessa thought he was. He had seen what was happening. He had realized the financial mess she'd dragged him into, and he did what any self-serving guy would do. He ran. Now, Vanessa wasn't just broke, she was alone. And for the first time in her life, no one was coming to save her. The next day, my phone buzzed. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello?" It was Vanessa. Her voice was small, hesitant, like she had been rehearsing what she was about to say. "Nathan," she started, Look, I know things have been bad between us, and I know, too, I messed up." I stayed silent. "But maybe," she continued, "we don't have to keep fighting. Maybe we can come to an arrangement." I leaned back in my chair. "An arrangement?" "Yeah," she cleared her throat. "I mean, maybe I could stay with you for a little while?" I almost burst out laughing. She was asking to move back in? After all of this? She actually thought I'd let her back into my home, into my life? I chuckled. "Vanessa, let me get this straight. You cheated on me, you stole our house, you tried to ruin me financially, and now that it's all backfiring, you think I'm just going to let you move back in?" She was silent. "Wow," I said. "You really are delusional." Nathan, I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to her. The house was sold, the tax bill was cleared, but Vanessa walked away with almost nothing. Carter disappeared, and Vanessa. She moved in with her sister in a tiny apartment across town. Not the glamorous life she imagined, I'm sure. But that's the thing about betrayal. It always comes back to haunt you. And Vanessa, she had finally run out of people to betray. Vanessa had always been the kind of person who thought she could walk away from any disaster she caused. She was selfish, but she was calculated. She knew how to twist situations to her advantage, how to manipulate people into cleaning up her messes, how to make herself the victim no matter how many people she stepped on. But this time, there was no one left to save her. She had burned every bridge, and now she was standing in the wreckage alone. 2 weeks after Carter sold the house, I had my lawyer send Vanessa the final divorce settlement. It wasn't negotiable. After everything she pulled, the fraudulent sale, the hidden accounts, the betrayal, I made sure she walked away with as little as legally possible. Half of everything marital was mine, by law, but Vanessa had drained most of our liquid assets trying to cover the tax mess she created. By the time I was done, she was left with pennies, a few investment accounts, a used car, and whatever scraps she could salvage from her burned-down life. And when she got the papers, she finally realized it, that she had lost completely. I was sitting at my office desk, reviewing contracts for a client, when my phone rang. I didn't have to check the name to know who it was. I sighed and picked up. "What, Vanessa?" She didn't even pretend to be angry this time. Her voice was flat, hollow, exhausted. "I got the divorce papers." I leaned back in my chair. "Good." There was a pause. "Nathan," she finally said, "is there any way we can, I don't know, work something out?" I blinked. "Work something out?" "Yeah, she took a deep breath. "Do we have to do it this way?" I almost laughed. "Vanessa," I said, "you sold our house to your boyfriend for $1. She swallowed. "I know you drained our accounts trying to fix it. I know you tried to screw me over in every possible way. And now that it's all falling apart, you want to talk about working something out?" There was another pause. Then quietly, "I don't have anything left, Nathan." I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. Not because I felt sorry for her, but because she had finally admitted the truth. Vanessa had spent her entire life pretending she was above consequences. And now she had nothing. Not because of me, but because of her own decisions. "That's not my problem," I said, and I hung up. It didn't take long before the news started making the rounds. Vanessa had spent years cultivating a reputation, the perfect wife, the charming socialite, the woman who always had things under control. But people talk, and in our social circle, people gossip. By the end of the month, Vanessa had become a cautionary tale. Not just about cheating, not just about lying, but about flying too close to the sun and getting burned. What happened to Carter? Carter did what I always expected. He disappeared. No dramatic exit, no grand breakup. He just cut his losses and moved on. After selling the house, he packed up whatever money he had left and went back to his hometown, probably to find another rich, older woman to leech off of. I heard he started dating someone new within a few weeks. Vanessa? She didn't even get a goodbye. She had thrown everything away for that kid, her marriage, her house, her financial security, and in the end, she wasn't even worth a final conversation. I'd say I felt bad for her, but I didn't. The last I heard, Vanessa was living in her sister's apartment. She had no savings, no career, no place of her own. She had spent years building this image of herself as someone above everyone else, someone who would always land on her feet. But now, she was just another person who made stupid choices and paid the price. And nobody cared. Nobody rushed to save her. Nobody bought into her sob story because everyone knew the truth. She had done this to herself. A few months after the divorce was finalized, Vanessa sent me one last text. "Vanessa, I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time, debating whether or not I should even respond. In the end, I typed exactly 3 words, "Me too, Vanessa," and then I blocked her number. I don't think about Vanessa much anymore. My life has been better without her. I made partner at my firm. I bought a new place, one that actually felt like home. I started traveling again, seeing friends I lost touch with, rebuilding the life she tried to destroy. Vanessa thought she was the one moving on. She thought she was trading up. But the truth? She was never the one leaving me behind. I was leaving her behind. For good. It had been nearly 6 months since Vanessa signed away everything she had. 6 months since Carter sold the house. Since Vanessa moved in with her sister. And since I had watched the wreckage of her life settle into place. In that time, I had rebuilt my life, piece by piece. I had made partner at my firm, bought a new home, and cut every remaining tie to Vanessa. She thought she was getting rid of me when she signed that house over to Carter, but in the end, she only set me free. I leaned back in my chair, gazing out the window of my new office. The city stretched before me, bustling, alive, full of possibilities. This was what life was supposed to feel like: light, untethered, free of the weight of betrayal. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally in control of my own future again. Vanessa had always been a shadow, lingering over every decision I made, every move I took. But now, she was just a distant memory. And then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, a text from my sister. "Mia saw Vanessa today. She looked terrible." I smirked. Of course she did. It didn't take a genius to know why. She had spent her entire life using people, manipulating them, draining them, but once she had nothing left to take, once she was no longer useful to anyone, the world had moved on without her. And Vanessa, she didn't know how to exist in a world where she wasn't the center of attention. I had heard bits and pieces about what she was up to, little whispers from mutual friends. Apparently, she had tried to find another wealthy man, someone to swoop in and rescue her from her mess. But men like that, they didn't fall for women like her anymore. She had lost her charm, lost the illusion of power she had once wielded so effortlessly. Now she was just another divorcee with baggage, and that wasn't something men with money wanted to deal with. So instead, she was stuck living paycheck to paycheck, working a boring job she hated, trapped in a life she never imagined for herself. I should have felt bad for her, but I didn't, because Vanessa had never once stopped to think about what she did to me, not until she was the one suffering, and by then, it was too late. That evening, as I sat in my apartment, enjoying the peace that came with not having Vanessa in my life, my phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. I stared at it for a moment before opening it. "Unknown, I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I raised an eyebrow. There was only one person who would be pathetic enough to send this now, Vanessa. She hadn't tried to contact me in months. Not since I shut down every one of her desperate attempts to talk her way out of the mess she created. Now she was reaching out with a half-hearted apology. I scoffed, tossing my phone onto the table. It was too late for that. She wasn't sorry about what she had done, she was just sorry that she lost everything in the process. I let the message sit there for a long time before finally replying. "Me, good to know. Now leave me alone." And then I blocked the number for good. A few weeks later, I was out with friends, enjoying a quiet dinner, when I overheard something that made me pause. A woman at the table behind me was talking in hushed tones, her voice laced with amusement. "Did you hear about Vanessa Reynolds?" she asked. My ears perked up. Her friend laughed. "Oh God, yes, she really thought she could bounce back, huh? Apparently she tried to get back into the dating scene, but nobody's interested. It's kind of sad." "Not really," her friend said. "I mean, she did it to herself, right? Karma's a bitch." I smirked, taking a sip of my drink. I hadn't needed to destroy Vanessa's life. She had done that all on her own. And now, she was a punchline, a cautionary tale, nothing more. People always think revenge is about getting even, about hurting the person who hurt you. But the truth? The real revenge is moving on. The real revenge is becoming happier than they ever imagined you could be. Vanessa expected me to crumble, to beg her to take me back, to fight for the house, for the money, for her. Instead, I let her destroy herself. And now I was standing here, on the other side of it all, completely untouched by the disaster she created. She thought she had won when she signed that house over to Carter. She thought she had trapped me when she drained our accounts. But in the end, she was the only one who lost. Life without Vanessa was peaceful. I had new routines, new opportunities, new people in my life. I no longer had to worry about manipulation, deceit, or betrayal. I had control again. I had my freedom. And Vanessa? She was just a name from my past, a lesson learned, a mistake I would never repeat. I didn't need closure. I didn't need an apology. I had won because I had something she would never have again, a future, and that was worth more than any revenge.